What are the keys to living your best? That's the topic that we're going to address today on Flourish-Meant. I'm your host, Tina Yeager, and I have an amazing woman of God who I happen to know personally and consider her a friend. So I am thrilled to have this conversation with her on Flourish-Meant today. Her name is Dawn Damon, and she is an award-winning author, an ordained minister, a speaker, a coach, a pastor, and host of a popular podcast entitled The Brave-Hearted Woman. She coaches midlife women to live with courage, confidence, and purpose, empowering them to rise to the design and master their mindsets and their heart sets. Welcome, Dawn. I am so excited to have you on the show today.
Hi, thank you, beautiful Tina. What a joy to be with you. I've really been looking forward to our conversation today because we are so aligned in our messaging and our passion and our desire to help other women. So it's a joy to be here. Thank you.
Dawn, let's launch into why you decided it was timely to write this type of book. The audience for which you're writing is middle-aged women. Why do they need to know how to be brave-hearted? What are some of the things that we're struggling with in this day and age and at this age?
For me, I had a personal experience that really caused me to take a deep dive in my life. I was 46 years old, and after being married for 28 years, I found myself single in an unwanted divorce. And I felt all of the feelings of abandonment and betrayal and fear and defeat. And I was in the ministry. I lost my job because it's very hard to be a woman in ministry, let alone a divorced woman in ministry. And so my livelihood, my church, my friends, my family, my everything changed for me. And I thought, what do I do now? It was a blank slate. And I began to just pray that God would put his dream for my life in my heart. Like, Lord, I don't want anything that isn't what you want for me. So will you put in me the dream, the hope, the desires that I'm supposed to have? And God began to do that. As I took this deep dive, I started to see other women my age, and I was now on the threshold of 50, and they were like they were done. They were experiencing empty nest, some of them. They were sad. They didn't feel like they had any purpose. Many of them had experienced transition in relationships and in career. Maybe they aged out. And I started to notice what makes a successful second half of life, if you will, assuming that we're going to live to 100. And that's where I began to come up with the 5 keys, or I call them fortitudes, because it's 5 areas where we need to be very strong in our life. So as I watched different women age, I thought, yes, that's it. And oh no, no, I don't want to do that. Letting their body go, perhaps. Losing mobility and flexibility, losing vision for their future, and feeling sad, going sometimes into depression and feeling lost and confused. Then I realized that research shows that midlife, women of 45, 50, a little bit beyond midlife, are number one target for a midlife crisis. We hear about it in men, but we don't always hear about it in women, that they feel sad and lost and invisible, and their youth is saying goodbye, perhaps their beauty is saying goodbye. And so I realized that it takes courage to stay the leading lady of your life, to not back up and say, oh, it's her turn now, or I used to do that, but I don't do that anymore, and start relinquishing all the things, whether it's activities or sports or hobbies or business, being an entrepreneur or going back to school or starting that passion project, whatever it is. It takes courage. It takes a brave heart to say, I'm going to stay engaged, and I'm going to face myself in the mirror and say, girl, you got this. Don't quit. Not on you, not on your dream. Don't quit on God and his purpose for your life. Dig deeper and say, what am I supposed to do now?
I think many of us are in one of two places at midlife. We can either look back at a successful life or look back at all of the things that you didn't succeed in. Both of them can lead you to a space of wondering, why should I even try? Why should I even try to move forward with this? Is there a reason why women in midlife still need to pursue having significance and purpose.
Yes, absolutely. Significance and purpose is how God wired us to find fulfillment and to really feel like we're contributing. And I know in AA and NA, some of these groups where I've taught Bible study, they often use this line to say, I need to be a contributing member of society. There's something about giving of our gifts, giving of our talent, tapping our purpose, and there's no expiration date on your dream. There's no expiration date on a goal given by God to you. In fact, that's why we go back to vision. Without the vision, without a beautiful picture of what might be next in life, we tend to live on the sidelines, age before our time, and become very unhappy because we become unproductive. We're bored. We don't know what to do with ourselves. So, staying engaged, staying active is God's purpose for us. He says in Psalm 1 and other places that our leaf will not wither, that we will bear fruit in every season of life. So it really is God's purpose and design for us that we be fruit bearers right up until the day He takes us home.
Can that look different in the second part of your adulthood? I'm not who I was. I'm not even who I thought I would be. Why don't I just give up? Those kinds of questions do tend to come up at this point. Is that necessarily so that we will be that same person in the second half of our adult life as we were or thought we would be in our vision for our first half of life?
Right. And wrestling with that question is really important. Don't be afraid of that question when you say, why should I even try? Wrestle with it and find the answer for it. Why should you try? What is your why? Why do I want to continue on? Why is it important for me to stay active? If I'm in a relationship with my spouse, why is it important for our relationship that I stay vibrant and able to, continue to do the things that my husband might love? Why is it important for me to stay fit so I can bend down and pick up grandchildren? We have to connect with that why. It's very important. But God did not say, at 50, your purpose runs out and then you just take up space. And so again, He created us. Remember, work came in the Garden of Eden. If you're not familiar with the Bible, read the account in the book of Genesis, very first chapter in the Bible. Work came before the fall. And God put it within us, in our design and our DNA, to be productive, to create. Someone once said, we're most like God when we become creative. So ask that question, why is it important? And find the answer. Why is it important? And it is that we stay active. And the pain of regret is really important. And I know that regret is more often stabbing pain than for what we didn't do than for what we did do. We've heard that said, right? I regret the chances I never took, the risks I never took. I'll always wonder, what if I tried? So this is a good time of life to be able to try something new, push yourself out of the box and out of the comfort zone. Lots of science on that too about the brain, right? So when we teach it to do new things that we haven't done before, it's really, really good for us. I learned how to water ski at 52 years of age, screaming the whole time I went around the lake. Like, what am I doing? And now, oh, I love it. I ski all the time. I'm not great at it. I get up on two skis, I hang on for dear life, and I have a blast. Something new. I never thought I could. In fact, I was always told, you're not strong enough. You can't do these sports. You're not coordinated. You're not good enough. A lot of lies that kept me trapped for a long time. But in midlife, I had to reinvent. I had to get a new script. Is that really true? I started to question assumptions about what I had always believed about myself. Wait, is that really true? I found out, guess what? No. And if it was true, it's not true today. We're still living, we're still flourishing. We're meant to flourish in every season of life.
Sometimes the shame and the blame and the difficulty with the confusion of who I am and all of those things can come together, make it difficult to see the vision that God has for you. And sometimes, even if you're really asking, it's difficult to see a clear vision of what God has for you. If what God is giving you is not fully clear or actualized, can you talk to that person who's saying, God isn't really speaking to me a full, clear, laid out kind of vision for my purpose in life right now? What would you say to that person?
I love the quote by Martin Luther King Jr. He said, I don't need to see the full staircase, just the next step. And I believe that's true. The Bible says God is a lamp unto our feet. It's not a floodlight. So I believe there's probably a baby step. There's a small incremental step. We often say that it's hard to direct a parked car, but a moving car, God can direct or we can steer. So I like to say, just take a little baby step moving in the direction you think you might be interested in going. I recently was discussing how I personally would love to have a storefront someday filled with all of the glitter things that I love: glitter hats, glitter tennis shoes, glitter jewelry, and t shirts. But I don't know if I want to do that. So I just recently put my name on the waiting list for a very small booth in a mall, kind of like an indoor craft show, where I'm just going to try it for a season and see if I enjoy it. What was the first step? Putting my name on the waiting list. Do I have peace or not? Yeah, I still have peace. Then they may call me and say, Dawn, a booth is ready for you. Do I take the next step? So I might say, yes, I do. And then I might do it for a month and say, loved it, tried it, not for me. Or, wow. So just these little baby steps we can explore. You know what, Tina? I love the journal and prayer time with God. And I journal around questions. Lord, I'm feeling this. Am I hearing your voice? And just begin to write what comes to you. Don't edit your soul. Just begin to write and just wait on it. Take time. But God says that his sheep will hear his voice. So it doesn't have to be in vivid color and crystal clear. We want to get there at some point, but just enough information like Abraham, get up and go. Just take a step. There's one more scripture I'll give you. It says, the path of the righteous is like the first gleam of dawn, shining ever brighter till the full light of day. In other words, the path starts with just a little glimmer. And the more I go down that path, the clearer, the brighter that it all becomes. And I see this is a faith walk. There are no promises or assurances that every step we take is the exact right one. It's a walk of faith. And it's okay. Alison Botke wrote a book once called God Allows U-Turns. And so it's okay if we say, oop, I started down this path and I don't feel it. It's not right. God allows U-turns. That GPS, that divine GPS, when possible, make a U-turn. God will direct us.
Speak to that woman who is thinking to herself, well, I tried to follow God's will before, but everything failed. Everything fell apart, which I believe that you can personally relate to that. Getting into that space where you were obedient and yet it wasn't particularly successful. How do you get back up and try again? It's almost like knowing you might run smack face into the wall and trying to run full steam anyway.
Yes, well, it's very good to stop and evaluate again. Did I hear from you, God? Did you say, am I clear? And then continue on. I believe that resilience is not just how long we can stand, but how quick we can get back up once we've fallen. And I'm always reminded that giants are in the promised land. They're not in the wilderness. You can go all day, every day for years in the wilderness and never hit a problem, but be unhappy and unfulfilled and bored and dry. And then you get into the promises of God or near what God has called you to. And that's where the warfare can kick up. And so, what I would say is, be clear, as clear as you can, that you know that this is what I believe with my whole heart God is leading me to do. Take those baby steps and then understand and discern the warfare, the pushback from the enemy, that he doesn't want you to claim your promises. There is fighting, there is, but ultimately, God has promised us the victory. And so, for that woman who's tried and given up, I would say, God's will prevail. If your heart is to know him, to follow him, and to be in the center of his will, you cannot fail. The power of God's Spirit, he will bring you there. He will open doors, he will close doors, he will direct. And that's the journey. That's the human experience that we're having down here.
You're such a wonderful encourager. You have so much insight, Dawn. What is one final thing that you want to leave with the audience today for those women who need to be brave in the second half of adulthood?
I think for me, what I discovered about myself was that there was much more in me than I thought. I didn't think I could ever survive the divorce, and I did. And not only did I survive it, but I grew and I bloomed. There were so many places and areas where my growth was stunted. But because of the trial, because of the challenge, which was painful and I wouldn't wish it on anyone, God in his sovereignty knew that this was not going to come back around. And so he opened up a pathway for me. And so there's much more in us than what we know. There's creativity, there's endless supply because the Lord has residence inside of us. There's an endless supply of wisdom, of creativity, of grit and ability that's provided to us. So, beautiful woman of God, sister, can maybe you're even considering, you stumbled onto this podcast and maybe you don't even know the Lord, but you're listening. Yes, there is more inside of you than you can imagine. And I believe that's why the scripture says, no eye has seen, no ear has heard, no mind can conceive what God has in store for those who love him and are called. But the next verse says, but the Spirit hath revealed it. You don't have to walk in darkness. God will show you. Baby step, take it and see what happens.
Dawn, this is so uplifting and so powerful. I know that women are going to want to connect with you, get a copy of your book, listen to your podcast, and hire you as a coach. How can they do that?
Well, first of all, the name of the book is The Making of a Brave-Hearted Woman. And I am found on Amazon, all the places. But once again, find me on Bravehearted Woman. That's one word, braveheartedwoman.com or Linktree/Dawn Damon Live. And if you go to Linktree, there's many little buttons you can click that bring you straight to me and all my resources.
I hope that all of you listening are inspired and motivated to be brave. And of course, I also hope that you will come back for the next episode of Flourishment.